It's February 2nd, 2015, 9:41 p.m. We're in Los Angeles, California.
Supposed to start at 9.
These are all facts. I'm on my 4th coffee of the day. We're here for the photographer's discussion. I have with me Jeremy Pavia, Chris Mortenson, and Josh McElwee. And I guess there's no real guidelines for what we're about to do here. We're sort of just getting together and talking about the current state of photography in and away from the BMX bike riding world. Although it is where we all came from in the first place, right? Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So I thought, we have the resources, we have the equipment. Adam's been really going crazy with the BMX-based one, so might as well do one for the photographers. So I'll introduce, I guess, the most I know about us. Jeremy is from upstate New York. He moved out here 7 years ago.
Yeah, 2007.
To Burbank, California. He shot and worked for BMX Plus for a number of years, and now he has his own studio and in Burbank, Golden Age. Shout out to yourself. Shout out to
Burbank.
your wife with the hair salon in the back.
Yeah, I'm holding it down.
Did you want to say anything else about your career now?
Yeah, I mean, I worked for Plus for 5 years, and I've been on my own since the end of 2011, and I do original content for ESPN and Red Bull, the online sites, and I contribute to Ride when I can. And I worked for Soul Print Magazine for a couple years, and I still try to contribute to them a little bit. And I had a few things in Albion when it was out, and technically over the years since I've been, started getting published, I've had photos in Freedom Magazine, Ride UK, Ride, Dig, Plus, and Ride US, and the Albion and Soul, I guess.
Nice.
So besides that, and then just doing, just different online content and a lot of personal work these days, I guess.
Right. And you do have a number of years on all of us, I think. You're pretty young. You're young, too.
Yeah, I think a little bit.
I mean, nothing backhanded.
Pavia
But
is
you
the
definitely have the
professional.
most experience, I think. So
No,
that's
definitely,
why
yeah.
you have your own camera angle.
He also owns his own
That
camera.
So, that's why I put you in that seat. So that's Jeremy Pavia.
Yeah.
Chris Mortenson over here. What I know about Chris is he grew up near Albuquerque.
No, southern New Mexico, actually.
Sorry. But
It's all good. It's well, I grew up in
I
like
said the same thing earlier.
I grew up in like Silver City, which is like, honestly, it was like I grew up in like a community of like hardly any BMX riders. Like I always grew up like traveling to Albuquerque, and that's how I know like everybody like Nate and Carrasco and McGrath and like Sam Adams and all those dudes. But like my scene was like 100% different, small, like compact. Like by the time I was in high school, like I was the only person riding and shooting pictures, and it's like. And then I went to college in New Mexico State University, which is it's like by El Paso, Texas, like way on the southern end of New Mexico.
Almost
and at the
Texas.
same time, there was like no BMX scene there really either.
Right.
It's like came from nowhere, But I'm here now.
There you go.
You've been in California for how long then?
I've been in California for 3 years now. It'll be like I think it'll be like 3.5 in April actually. So.
You've done work for Quentin?
Yeah, I mean, I moved out here to work for Quinn. I was like, started on as like in-house photographer, and then it transitioned into like art director, and then I was like trying to be TM for a little while, and now it's like digressed into just me trying to shoot more personal work and going like freelance and doing like photography like within BMX and outside of BMX.
Just working with the cameras?
Yeah, pretty much constantly just trying to just shoot all the time. So.
All right. What you're going to do is talk to the microphone.
Oh, yeah. Talk to the microphone.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then over here, Josh McElwee from Hanover, Pennsylvania.
Close to York.
That's
yeah.
close. Okay.
Real close.
And Josh, are you the youngest one here?
Yeah.
How old are you?
22.
He's 22 years old. Yeah. That's what I said. Josh, I first heard of... Man, I can't even tell you when I first heard of him, but I just remember seeing his lighting and thinking, like, holy shit, this kid knows what he's doing.
Push
It's
and stop pull, maybe? Flickr?
Was it Flickr the first time we communicated?
That's where I started Sending, I mean, like that's in all likelihood probably the first place you would have seen anything.
I remember.
And then you messaged me.
Oh, yo, I
Yeah.
think you had a
Yeah.
photo with some colored gels in it, and I was like, yo,
Shocking.
you ever know Keith Roman? You ever heard of
CTO gel?
Keith Roman out? No, it was like red. It was like a very deep red. It wasn't any CTO. It was like, it was colored. No, am I wrong?
I mean, it was
pop-
probably a CTO gel, but it could
Okay.
have been.
Well, I took it as some like crazy color
Yeah,
filter,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I referenced Keith Romanowski. who said-
Definitely, yeah.
There you go.
And then we started talking from there. And
Shout out to
from then,
Keith.
Yeah,
one of the
dude.
best,
Can we all just say that Keith,
one of the
like,
best
dude,
BMXs ever
one of the
walked.
sickest. Like, he was
I've
really.
never
good
even met
great
Keith
photographer.
Romanowski, but huge shout out.
Yeah,
We should pour
he-
one out for him and his
Yeah.
BMX
super-
photography.
I can see him.
I'll
now.
drink one for him.
He metered his flashes using a laser distance.
Nice.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
crazy meticulous.
Yeah.
You got to respect that.
Yeah.
But anyways, you freelance with RideBMX. You're getting a lot of stuff lately in RideBMX. You work at Woodward Camp in the summertime, right?
Yes.
On the Woodward East,
With
of
this
course.
guy over here.
Yep.
These two.
Yep. Hold
Wait,
it
you
down,
go
Woodward.
out east too?
Yeah,
Jeremy
man.
and I are the
Yeah, I'm
full-time
the- yeah.
photography instructors for
Yeah.
the digital media program.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
We got
For
the
sure.
team out here.
Oh yeah.
Got the team on my back.
Crew. We just changed coasts.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
No, not a ton. I'm just kind of.
Oh yeah. Why are you here? You're just out here. You live in
No,
Hanover.
I live in Pennsylvania. No,
Yeah.
I'm out actually visiting California for the first time, staying with Jeremy.
Nice. When I first approached Jeremy about this whole event, it seemed like he already had a huge list of topics he'd want to touch on. And I think the
Of
first...
course.
He is the professional.
Shocking.
Well, no, and
Jeremy had a lot to say about something.
it's great because I know for the past like 2 years, it seemed on the Union he was doing the Through the Lens column,
Oh, yeah, I
which I'd
forgot
catch
about
once
that.
in a while, and I was blown away every time I read it. It was super professional, and it all
Yep.
made sense.
Yep.
No, I read a lot of it too. It was really great.
Yeah, and
Thank you. Thank you.
I was reading it a ton before I had even met Jeremy, actually.
Yeah, no,
And then when I met him, it was crazy. It was like, oh, I've been reading what you have to say on the internet for a year and a half straight every week.
It's good.
well, oh, I was just gonna say, it's like it just goes to show. It is like really inspirational to see somebody who just like has like an outlet for creativity. You know, same with like you, Scott, with like Push to Stop. You know, it's like.
Yeah, I mean,
just
if-
there's something to say about people like doing their own thing and actually like running with it. You know, it's like
Yeah, I mean, I want to give a shout out to Kurt for that, just for giving me the opportunity to do that. It was actually looking back on it. I mean, the way that I had that whole series go was just really organic, and every topic and every week and everything I did was just, it kind of came to me as it did, and went real naturally. And even to the very end, to the last column, it was always like, I just let it happen as it happened. And even when I ended it, he didn't even know. I mean, the last column that I sent in was just a farewell column, and he didn't even know that until he read it. You know what I mean? That day. So it was crazy. I put in a lot of work on that. I did it for 105 weeks in a row. So it was intense. I mean, no matter what was going on in my life, where I was, you know what I mean, at that
You
time,
had to get a column,
every
yeah.
single Wednesday
That's
that shit
what
came out. So
I was most psyched on is you didn't miss 1 week, and
Yeah,
I
no, it
kept
was
thinking
crazy.
like, oh, Jeremy's not gonna have anything this week, but somehow he had something.
He would be sitting in his room at,
Oh, my
at
God.
Woodward on Tuesday at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Or really Wednesday at that point.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, but really Wednesday.
No, I
at
mean
2,
there were times.
just working
Yeah,
away.
there were
always.
times at my house, literally, where I'd be doing a column the morning. You know what I mean? 4 or 5 a.m. the morning of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just finishing up the
Getting
morning
it
of,
done.
or waiting until something came to me, or waiting to really, you know what I mean? Just find something that was A, interesting. You know what I mean? B, that I was felt knowledgeable enough to really write something about, and you know what I mean? C, that I felt like it would be worth sharing. So. To do that, you know what I mean, for that long it was crazy. So looking back on it, man, I wouldn't change a thing. Like, I'm very grateful for the opportunity, but man, it was nice to get away from those deadlines after that.
Sure, man.
I mean, I worked for print for 5 years straight, deadlines. You know what I mean? 3 weeks out of every month, I
Yeah.
was on deadline for five years straight.
Yeah.
And then I went right into the column. That was 2 years of
a
every
weekly,
week. You know
a
what I mean?
weekly deadline.
Yeah.
That's something no one likes.
So it was crazy. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate all that. Yeah,
much
thanks.
respect for that
Thank you.
commitment right there.
Yeah.
Anyways, the first thing I feel like you wanted to talk about was film versus digital.
I mean, I guess the film versus digital thing is a
Josh
big
didn't want to talk about it.
is a big part of photography, because Josh and I were actually watching videos of this old school dude. What's his name again?
Shout out to Dean Collins, by the way.
Dean Collins. I mean, he's just this old.
We'll talk about it
He's
later.
just this
Crazy.
old school photographer that was so technically sound that it was like insane. I mean, his work is just. He was so detailed that it would be actually current day I don't care who you
Yeah.
are, how professional you think you are. This guy would blow. I mean, he'd blow your mind
Oh.
with how meticulous he was.
I was
and-
gonna say, yeah, I'll elaborate on it in a little. It's basically just this dude who isn't he was honestly like a really straightforward like commercial kind of advertising dude from 70s, 80s and on, and like large format 4x5, 8x10, but just the most meticulous lighting. I mean, the dude was not just like setting up some lights and doing his thing. He was like choreographing and
Yeah, it was
physically
intense.
manipulating light.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
he would
Google
take
him.
one
I mean-
light and make it look like 6.
Yeah.
It was that
Reflectors
kind
and
of
all
thing.
that.
And he did this crazy series of instructional videos in like the late 80s and early 90s that I had seen years ago, and then a few nights ago I stumbled, on a few on YouTube, and we watched them.
Yeah, we were tripping out. It was
It was
crazy.
incredible.
That's
You got to
awesome.
watch him.
He died like 10 years ago of cancer.
Yeah.
But it's an incredible, like, he's got DVD sets.
It'll
and
it'll
stuff
it'll
online.
change the way you look at photography and you look at yourself
Everything.
as a photographer.
Strobus did a review
Yeah.
like a long time ago, and he said it'll change the way that you look at an apple when you hold it up to the light.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
believe it.
and that's true.
Now, when I first
All
learned
of it.
about catch lights in
Yeah.
models' eyes, it's like, no fucking way. Like, it's that easy to see the lighting setup.
Yeah.
He's
That's
all about
something
the
awesome.
specular highlights
Yeah.
and the diffuse shadow to edge
Dude, yeah,
transfer.
there's-
Just this
yeah,
stuff
we were looking at
blew
covers
me
the other
away.
day at the store, being like, "Hey, how was this shot? What do you think of
Yeah,
it?" You know
no,
what I
that's,
mean?
I
Like-
love that. I love being able to pick
try
apart
to
a photo
deconstruct
like
it.
that.
But the film versus digital thing is that and talking about that in general is the fact that a lot of people get into photography now where it's just all they know is digital and all they ever, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
the learning curve is different, and you really skip out on the basic fundamentals of photography and what photography really is.
Yeah.
And this guy is just a reminder. He reminds you, he bangs
Yeah.
you over the head with what photography really is
Yeah.
and how technically difficult it is.
He had a
and
video,
what
he had
real
a video
photography
from
is, you know?
1998 where he called out the future of
Yeah, he
digital
knew
photography
everything.
as
He
we
knew
knew it.
everything.
He said you have. He broke it down as incident control and reflective control,
Yeah.
which meant controlling cameras and lenses and film and stuff, and then post control. And he said that in the future this is going to make people lazy. that
No,
pe-
but
that
I
people
don't
are
know,
just
like,
going to try to.
No,
Does
use
it make
he's-
people lazy, or does it make people like better shooters in general, like faster? Because it's like I feel like the film versus digital thing is like a generational thing that is going to phase out soon. It's like whenever people like go to school and like they're in like say they want to study photography, they pick up film. You know what I'm saying? But like you see people all the time who are amazing shooters, especially now with like iPhone, like with these amazing camera phones that people are just carrying around. And I feel like it's sad to say that film is fading out, but film is definitely like more for the hardcore like individuals, the people who like care about process,
Right,
'Cause
but
it's
that's,
like-
I mean, that's what I would love to place myself in that category as a digital shooter. I mean, I shoot 90% digital. I mean, for workflow and everything. I mean, actually, yeah, mostly everything for work is just all digital. I mean, 90%, honestly. But the thing is that I like to think of myself as somebody that thinks with a film mindset of this exposure has to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This composition has to be perfect. You know what I mean? Cropping in camera, shooting to crop in camera, like making sure that is on point to the point of if it were film, it's going to come out right. You know what I mean?
Well, like,
and people with digital, though, they miss out on that. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah,
learning curve really isn't there. So it's,
I guess like one thing they miss out is like working in the darkroom basically,
that,
and
yeah.
like learning how to like because like for me like I
Shout
remember
out to the darkroom.
Yeah, shout out to the darkroom, dude. No, like I mean I remember like
darkroom.
I remember like I had like an epiphany one day where I was just like, dude, you know what? Like because like I worked in the darkroom for like 5 years while I was in college, and I learned all that stuff. And then like I remember one day I was like working in Photoshop, and I just was like thinking about like curves, and I was thinking about levels, and I was thinking about how you can make layers and manipulate, and you can change like you basically burn and dodge within layers versus
Right.
like using burn and dodge tools. And I was thinking it was like
that's why the software is called Lightroom.
no, and I was
instead
just
of
like basically
darkroom.
like thinking I was like, dude, you know what? Like if you use Photoshop as like a darkroom versus like thinking about it as this program that enhances the image, but like you think about it as like this is what I'm using to like
Yeah.
like fucking do everything. It's
But
like,
I mean, I guess that's not even the point. The point that I'm trying to make is that with digital and even at Woodward, I mean, this is a big thing for me that I try to, shine on to the younger people anyways, is that with digital, you have the ability to stand out is going to be within your editing. But that you can't edit it. You can't edit a shitty photo. A shitty
Can't
photo,
polish a turd.
A shitty photo. A shitty photo is a shitty photo. You can't edit a shitty photo to be any better. That's why you have to have that base to start with a good photo, and then from there, everybody. If 5 people can shoot that photo that well, and it's a correct exposure, correct everything, then what's going to set it apart would be your skills, you know what I mean, as an editor on the computer and all that. And that's where current day everybody's kind of trying to set themselves apart. And you develop your own style as a photographer through the computer now. You know what I mean? Instead of the darkroom, lightroom, whatever you want to call it. But so that's the big part of it.
Let me point out that there are different facets of the film versus digital debate that we can touch on. And I feel like Jeremy's touching on the fact that digital gives you too much to work with. That you start snapping around, and you don't care about what's going into the image. If you were to say there's a polar opposite of digital, it'd be probably large format because it takes so long to set
hold on.
Right.
I just have to say one thing with that, because I don't want to get that misconstrued in the sense of like, I don't want people to think that just because I shoot digital, I would be just shooting around compared to shooting film. I treat digital very seriously on that film level anyways, you know what I mean, in my own head. So, but with other people, I'm not saying it so much that digital makes you shoot too much. I'm just saying with people that are learning and people that are just getting into it is that they shoot without knowing really what they're
what's
doing.
going on.
That's
yeah.
all.
Well, that just goes around the lines of like eventually finding out what you want to do in the real, like, because now it's like, because when I was taking like photo one and stuff, I was just like, just like doing these random snapshots or whatnot, and like with digital, my first digital class, like I shot fucking horrible photos, but now it's like, now that I know exactly what I want to do, I don't want to take the time to sift through everything. And it's like, I have a specific vision for like what, and it's like basically like shooting film in a way,
Yeah.
But, and like, I mean, honestly, it's like, I mean, I'm grateful that I like studied like film and like know how to do all that stuff,
Definitely.
It probably helped out, But, and it's something that generations are probably missing out on in real.
You want to? Yeah, go for it.
As far as, what Chris just touched on about generations missing out. So I started shooting photos, purely in the digital sense. Like I wouldn't say I had no exposure to film cameras.
Pun
obviously.
intended.
Totally unintentional. No, but realistically, yeah, I everything that I started doing, was digital. 2005, 2006 or so, like starting with my mom's Kodak Easy Share
With the floppy disk in it?
No, well, not
God, the Mavicas.
We're
Those
not
in
talking
school,
that
the floppy
archaic,
disk.
but yeah, it was just this little rectangle, little point and shoot, 5 megapixel digital camera, and then eventually like a little DSLR and stuff. But it was, for me, it was completely digital, and I would say around maybe 2008, 2009, I kind of got a little more curious about film and went the opposite direction. I did digital directly to film. And then probably for close to 2 years following that, I barely shot digital at all. It was all 35 and medium format. I ended up getting like a little Hasselblad setup for a good deal on KEH.
But Josh would be an exception to the digital versus film rule, because even though he's a newer generation digital person, he actually is crazy about photography, and that's what it takes. You have to be insane to actually be good at photography. And Josh has that in a sense of like, whether it's film or digital, for him, he is obsessed with it, and that's what I like about him. And we share that obsession.
We do.
But it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if he's shooting with film or digital. He shares that obsession. He's studied it and he's learned it to that point of like, that's where you should be starting that base. So who cares if he started with digital?
That's like,
you know what I mean? He's got that solid base.
Even if you start with digital, the best way to learn how to use the camera is to put it on manual mode and mess with the f-stops, mess with the shutter speeds, mess with the ISOs, because honestly, you could take any camera, put it on green box mode, and be a fucking professional. Really, just F8. Some street photographers once said that it's F8 and being there. Meaning
F8 and being there.
Yeah, I mean, you have pretty deep depth of field, and you just got to be in the right place at the right time, which is the aesthetic for a lot of point and shooters these days.
I'd like to say I personally don't like F8.
No? What's your favorite f-stop?
F2.8, actually. That's
You're
my favorite.
You're a 1.4 guy, aren't you?
No.
4? Really? Oh, I like 5.6.
I was just starting some shit.
4 is the perfect in-between point for like, oh my god, I'm not going to get it in focus, to like, it could have been a little bit
but
more out of
what about all the ambient light?
Well, I didn't say 4 all the time. But if you're going to give me my
you're saying
ideal
natural light?
f-stop ever,
Yeah.
4.
That's that.
for certain,
Josh has got his ideal f-stop.
For
for certain,
portraits.
for a lot of, even for BMX, dude, with like a 70 to 200 sometimes.
What's the minimum shutter speed you guys are willing to go to? With
Wait,
any
for
given
action,
shot?
or-
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as fast as possible.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I mean,
course.
if it just depends. Are we talking flash or are we talking?
That you're willing. Hold on. That you're willing to get to. That changes.
I mean, I've shot
completely.
stuff at night at 15th of a second.
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? So,
Motion,
yeah.
shout to panning.
No,
I've
yeah,
done.
pounding.
So, I mean, that depends.
Close
That's,
to half a second handheld,
yeah, I mean,
like panning with a fisheye.
Action shot, no flashes.
Yeah. No flashes.
No.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
yeah,
I'm saying,
yeah,
with
definitely
flashes
flashes.
not involved.
You know, I'll just
I
bump
mean,
that shit up to
500
6400 ISO and shoot it at 60. I don't care, dude. Like,
I mean,
Flash is
500th
not
of a second,
involved.
realistically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
you can't
yeah.
really drop much more than
Yeah.
that and still
I
keep
never
any-
go below 1/1000th when I can help it,
Oh,
especially
boy.
with the
Yeah.
rotation of the wheel, the spokes. I mean, depending how fast they're going. Like,
I mean,
yeah.
depending like midday, definitely Super Sun 1/500.
But I mean, I've been
At
shooting.
least.
I've been shooting handheld inside X Games, Dew Tour, stuff like that. Oh my god, at embarrassingly low shutter speed.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
sometimes
the
you can get
highest
away
ISO
with
you-
it.
yeah.
But then that just goes back to just the way you edit it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've had stuff printed that was crazy, high ISO and slow shutter speed. But sometimes, you know what I mean, when you're covering a contest or a different event like that, you have to do what you have to do.
you gotta
know
get
what I
the
mean?
shot.
Yeah.
You gotta get a shot.
A shitty, not perfect shot would be better than no shot.
Not sure.
You got to
yeah,
come back
exactly.
with something. You got.
That's what the thing. The thing is with digital, it's so versatile that you set the really when you're shooting action, the most important thing is the shutter speed, so it's not blurry. Then the focus, because you can always kind of tweak the focus a little bit. And then after that, as long as you have some image in there, you can in post you can make it into a like a good
right.
image, you know. Like you can in camera something can be underexposed 2.5 stops, and you bring it in a fucking camera raw or Lightroom,
Yeah.
like it's gonna look grainy, it's gonna look kind
We
of
were
weird.
talking
but
about that the other day.
it's
How
there.
just the raw files are like
Yeah,
crazy
there's a lot of
now.
information.
There's so much in there.
Honestly, it doesn't bother me. Like when I think about like when I go shoot, like if I don't have flashes, like if I don't have anything, I want to get a shot no matter what. And it's like to me, that's like the beauty of like for me, that's like where I stand from shooting is like I just want to capture the moment, and sometimes the moment is shitty. Like the moment isn't the perfect lighting, dude. Like the moment is like lit by like a street lamp.
Okay.
And it's like, you
Real
know,
deal.
it's like if I have to shoot that 6400 ISO at 2.8
Yeah.
and only a part of them is in focus or something, it's like fine with me because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like all about like capturing it to me.
I like
you know,
that. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It's just
no,
what
like look at
happens.
Animal, dude. Like I take it like from Animal back in the day, like AM PM, dude. They're shooting like at night
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
shitty ass like fucking camera, like you know, and it's just all about the writing and it's
Yeah,
just
it's
all about the moments.
getting
you
the
know?
job done.
Exactly.
The thing with film also that we have to remember is that film is transitioning on its way out eventually. I mean, there'll be the diehards that keep it going, but it's getting more expensive. It's getting harder to process. It's getting harder to get actual film prints made. You know what I mean? Everything in that industry, specifically with film, anything related to film, the cost of film, the cost of everything is going up, and it's becoming less and less available. So it also means that it's becoming more and more valuable in a different sense. You know what I mean?
You know-
in the
coveted.
sense of like,
More
hey,
sought after.
this is only going to be here. This only exists now.
You also have
I
to
mean,
think
it might not even be here in the next, you know what I mean, 20 years at all.
No, exactly. And but like another thing too is like you also have to think that a lot of film photos now are printed digitally, which is like super
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
nearly
Yeah.
everything is going
you
to
know?
be scanned in.
It's
and
like
printed,
you don't
but-
see a C print very often. you
No,
know?
unless it's school.
We were just.
Well,
Yeah.
You
I
might
did
you
just
probably
do-
see black and white prints, you know, but like you don't see a lot of C prints.
For me, what it comes down to with film versus digital is the fact that when people shoot digital, they don't usually get prints made. You know, it goes under their
Right,
computer.
right.
They share it on Facebook, Instagram, any other social media websites like that, and you never get to hold something or hang something on the wall. And that's really like what bums me out most is that I don't have like a poster to hang up on my wall anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe I have like a desktop background I can change once every couple
Yeah,
of
but
weeks.
one thing we have to remember is that kids are different now anyways. Kids, I mean, I grew up posters, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obsessing over just
Room
one
covered.
picture on the
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
ripping
all
everything
those-
out, just
Yeah.
taping shit up.
Including
But
the ceiling, all of it.
But
Yeah.
now I feel like the generational gap. I feel like the kids don't even understand what it would mean to take out a poster and tape it up on their wall.
No,
I mean,
like
it's
what do
different,
kids
you
hang
know?
on their walls these
Their
days?
laptop.
I mean,
Bunch of iPads.
I mean,
things.
hopefully, I hope they're hanging girls or something. You know? I mean, like,
I hope they're hanging something on the
Yeah, I don't know
walls.
what the hell they're doing, but yeah, they're not hanging posters. You know what I mean from the magazines. That's for sure.
All right, so yo.
But I mean, that would transition anyways. The film versus digital would transition right into the, you know what I mean, print versus online in a sense, anyways. If we're gonna get into
Oh, it's so
that, you know.
tedious.
I mean, I feel like they go hand in hand. It's one and the same, really. Like like I was saying, it's not so much film versus digital, but it's online versus print, right? It's
Yeah,
paper versus
yeah,
pixel.
yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
hate to see a good photograph stay pixel when it could be great on paper, and not vice versa. Because I mean, any photo can look great on your fucking iPhone, you know. Like that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be sharp. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be clean. It doesn't have to look great. It's just. It's
print-
only 640 pixels wide.
The prints do the talking.
Yeah. Man. I mean,
how they come out and you know what I mean in the magazine or whatever. That's when you know what I mean. If you're having a print come out the correct way in a magazine, or you know what I mean, getting it printed at a lab, you know what I mean, a professional lab, and it looks good. I mean, that's when you're on your, you know what I mean. That's when your stuff is looking right. You know,
dude, because you could put so much work. Okay, you were talking about who is it? Daniel Collins. What's his name?
Dean Collins.
Dean Collins.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Gregory Crewdson.
Yes.
One of my early influences.
Yes.
I feel like everyone.
I love Gregory Crewdson.
Yes. Oh my God.
The book. What is it?
Beneath the Roses.
That's his first one.
That was the first one.
Yeah. Night. No. What's it called? Dawn.
Twilight.
Twilight's
Thank you.
amazing.
Twilight is like the first photo book I was ever like, just like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is so cool. Every fucking photo is like a movie scene, you know? And
Yes.
8x10, dude. Well, I mean, because he makes a movie scene.
imagine, you guys see that? You saw the movie of him making
watched
this
the
shit?
whole thing, yeah,
Imagine
yeah.
him setting up one of those photos and putting it on Instagram. Straight to Instagram. No fucking wall print. An 8x10 photo straight on Instagram. There are so many little things you would not be able to see in that image that he set up for hours.
You wouldn't even have to edit it.
Days, dude,
Yeah,
with
honestly.
some of those. He had full film sets. Like,
Yeah.
he's a photographer who has a director of photography.
No, he doesn't even.
He doesn't
He
hit the
doesn't even hit the
button.
button.
He doesn't hit the
dude. I was
button.
gonna
That's
say. It's like, you know.
He's got a goddamn director of photography.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
That's the life. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I wish I just had somebody to set up like, yo, Steve's gonna set this. He's gonna truck a set. Oh yeah, director of photography, get in here, dude. Just like light it for me.
They're lighting up streets. He's got the fire department burning down
You know what's
houses
funny
and
is
shit.
that
like,
town he uses for most of his shoots
in Massachusetts?
Pittsfield. That's
Yeah.
where Jake Seeley's from.
Oh,
and I
wow.
told him the story once. He's like,
Shout
"No
out to
way."
Jake Seeley.
Shout out to Jake Seeley, greatest bike rider.
Did he know what the deal was? Did he?
No, he's like, I had no idea. I'm like, oh,
Damn.
Pittsfield, Mass, dude. Shouts to Western.
Everybody else knows
Massachusetts.
who he is. There, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
it's like the documentary's
He's the
amazing,
man.
actually.
Yeah, everyone's psyched.
'Cause
If
it
you
was
guys
filmed
haven't
over, like,
seen
10
it, you should
years. Yeah. What's it called?
I think it's not Beneath the Rose. It's something like that.
No, it's like.
Chasing Light.
Dude, let's
I
just
bought
IMDb.
it. I can't
Look at
remember
it.
what
I
it's
saw it at some
called.
theater.
Yeah. Oh, you saw it in the theater?
Yeah.
Nice.
Shouts to Ryan Bailey, my photo dude, Sarasota, Florida. All right, well, there we are. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, if we want to talk print versus digital, which I do,
Yeah.
because I've consistently worked for both for, you know what I mean, nearly a decade anyways,
Well,
in one form or another. So it's one of those things where when we're talking about print versus online, or, you know what I mean, anything along those lines, I'm blown away by the quality of photography that's being used for just online only stuff now. But at the same time, you know what I mean, I have a lot of respect for everybody that's putting out that much content, solid content online. And that's what I tried to do with the column anyways, was put out good content online regardless. Even if I felt like this could get printed or this should be used for print, it was just like, it felt good to put out really solid content online. So to me, it doesn't really make one difference. It doesn't make a difference one way or the other for me currently, because I've done enough of both over the years. But it's a whole different feel when you see your photo in print. You know what I mean? Compared to a website, and it always will be, no matter what. It always will be. But the kids, I know, and I've realized over the years that they're completely out of touch with print as well.
Yeah, they
I
don't
mean,
care.
some kids almost nearly, quite literally, don't know about BMX magazines, or don't know.
No, not at
They've
all.
never even heard of some of them. They don't even understand that. You know what I mean? The obsession
I was gonna
that
say, I'm not gonna
goes
name
along with
names,
it.
But someone very recently that I know pretty well didn't know what Dig was. Someone who's like a couple years younger than I am.
I mean,
All right. I mean, so the print industry is shrinking and shrinking in general and getting smaller, you know what I mean, as we speak. But the whole point of that, the whole reason why it's getting smaller is just it all comes down to finances. And it all comes down to readership, you know what I mean, and how many people are actually looking at these magazines.
Right.
So with online content now, you could gauge that so much easier. You know what I mean? With print, you'd have a print magazine back in the day. Okay, cool. Now I get this. I subscribe to Ride UK or whatever. Shout out to Ride UK for still holding it down for print.
Yes.
But I subscribe to Ride UK, right? And then I get it in the mail. Now they use what they would do is then they would add, say, 6 people. There's a certain number that they would add to each person that gets a magazine, because I'm going to be like, hey, did you see the new Ride UK?
To 6 different people.
Right? And then he's going to show it, and then other people are going to see it. Or if you go to a spot, or if you go to a skate park, maybe it's going to change hands, you know what I mean, 5 or 6 times. So they count those as readers. You know what I mean? So it's different. And then your subscriber numbers are different. But everything comes down to ad dollars. So ads pay for magazines, and if you aren't getting the ads, you aren't getting the dollars for the magazines to pay for the trips, to pay for the contributors. You're putting out all the content yourself, and it's just gonna slowly go down, and your magazine's gonna shrink and then become, you know what I mean, obsolete at one point. You know, as long as the ad dollars don't, if they're not coming in, you know.
I had a rhetorical question. Are there books that go straight to Kindle these days that don't even like get made into actual
definitely.
books?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then that's a sign that
sure
like
of it, yeah.
print is dying.
But the thing with print is that it's just becoming a different medium now. You know what I mean? It's just like vinyl with a record.
Right.
I mean, sure, there's MP3s and you listen to music on your phone and Pandora and you stream it and Spotify and whatever. But vinyl still exists and people still use it.
Right.
And it's going to be the same with print. Print magazines are going to still exist on some level. But will they exist in every industry? Who knows? Will they still exist in BMX in 5 years? Honestly, it's kind of scary to think of it, but who knows?
Yeah, but I mean, do you think that there will be some other group of people out there who decide that, like, hey, we want to do something in print, and like no matter what it takes, like we're gonna do
Always.
it. I mean, like, do you think like
Always.
I feel like there probably will be somebody out there who decides to make a zine.
The thing that's scary about that is, and I will say this completely honestly, is that the Albion was one of the best things to ever happen to BMX.
Yeah. Yes.
And if, you know what I mean, they couldn't make it work being as good as they were for whatever reason, that scares me.
Well, what I'm pretty sure it came down to was finances, and being free in Europe worked out for them, but when they tried to ship bunches of them over here,
Yeah,
it ended up
course,
costing
yeah.
them way too much, and what they could
Yeah.
have done is charge, you know, a
That-
reasonable $5-7 per copy. I mean,
Yeah.
they were quality magazines.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, no, of course.
they were too far gone by that point.
But another thing we have to realize and think about, and I think this is very true, is that I think a lot of people don't understand or don't vibe out on magazines the same way as some photographers do if you're just a consumer. You know what I mean? I
That's
don't think
true.
you
'Cause I
get.
guess
I don't think you
like,
get as excited.
Historically, you didn't have any other option. It was magazines. Like,
yeah, there was no
Yeah,
website
exactly.
to go to
You
see
know?
all this shit. There was no internet. I mean, back in the
Right.
day,
Yeah.
you read a newspaper. There's no CNN.com. You got a newspaper every morning.
Yeah.
And
Maybe you watch the news on TV or something.
There were no
later
web
on.
videos.
Yeah.
You had to order a VHS tape from Damstomp or whatever.
the VHS.
Can
Man,
you-
I waited for props forever, dude.
Dude, that was
waited
the
for props
best.
forever.
And when every time of the month, you knew it was like time for the magazines and the props to come in. You just got so psyched every day coming from school. It's like, oh, I know it's gonna be in the mailbox. I know it's gonna be there.
But that's the weird thing is that, I mean, as you get older in the BMX industry in general, it's just like, I don't know, you realize so harshly that it's different for every generation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that are coming up right now that have never heard of some of the biggest magazines in BMX.
Or the
they'll
biggest
never know.
videos.
They'll never know what it's like to wait for, you know what I mean, an issue of props for, 2 months or the 6, you know what I mean, the half year one
And
where they.
honestly, they might be happier people because of that fact. They'll never have to internally debate these issues. And like, I feel like if we were to all been born so recently that this was not even a discussion in our heads, like we'd be much happier people. Like,
Well, in what sense?
like I wouldn't struggle with sending a photo to a magazine rather than putting a photo online. You know, I wouldn't, because then I'd be like,
all right.
what
Well,
magazine?
that
You know, there's no
that
such
brings
thing.
up a great point. So, being somebody that's been involved in the industry for a long time and being published on all different levels for quite a long time, is that does it matter to me whether a photo goes to print or online? Yeah, for sure, it definitely does. But are there times where I shoot with people and I don't know where it's going to go yet? You know what I mean? Until it actually gets published. Sure. Do I want something to go for print specifically? Yeah. I mean,
time.
it depends on the photo and it depends on how crazy it is. And for me, I really enjoy putting out quality content online all across the board and in print, obviously. But I still hold a little bit of a higher standard for myself for print. You know what I mean? If I shoot something that I just feel like it belongs to in print and it needs to be printed, then I will go to whatever lengths I can to get that printed.
So you spend different amounts of times on a photo given its output.
I say more the content. You know what I mean? If what I shoot is something that you know what I
Something's
mean,
worthy of print.
yeah. I mean, whether it's the trick, whether it's the rider, whether it's the situation.
This is solely BMX based then.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. If it's that crazy of a trick, or you know what I mean, if it's that rare of a thing that just I want it to be published in print, I will do whatever I can to get it published in print. You know what I mean? I just don't want to put out. You know what I mean? I like the idea of putting stuff out online, But I also like the idea of saying, all right, I'm going to hold on to this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this isn't going anywhere.
You know, that just like goes also, it's like sometimes, especially like us, like all living in California, we're like shooting with amazing riders all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like we're like hanging out with people who are like in the industry and we're like shooting every day. And like sometimes I have like overabundance of photos and it's like, yeah, like sometimes I can like send them out and stuff, but other times it's like, I just want to blast them out. I just want to put them up. Like I want to give them to people. I want to show people instantly what is happening as soon as I come home from a session, you know? And it's like, and that also kind of goes to show like just this change of like time of like, you know, people don't have to wait and they don't need to wait, you know? It's like people know that like we're out here hanging out and we're shooting with all these people and it's like, yeah, I want to like release lifestyle photos. I want to like release like riding photos, you know? Definitely, I definitely hold on to stuff that is important and I feel like is worthy, but sometimes it's just like, you know, it's just like just let it go too, you know, and like let it put it on the web, put it on the internet, put it on your Tumblr, Instagram, do whatever, you know.
Josh, you got anything?
No, not really. I mean, I wish. I've been kind of internalizing all this.
See, because it shows because of your age. I mean, is there a 10-year age gap right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So it shows because I feel like you have the least problem with putting stuff online rather than putting stuff print.
I understand how you would, you know, come to that conclusion, but that's it's not the case.
Yeah.
I have a huge, you know, like mental conflict about all of it.
Let's hear it.
I mean, my story is kind of. It just happens to be that I'm at the weird. You know, like the time that I started riding and shooting photos, it was at a weird point. Like you guys are like Jeremy's 10 years older than me. You are, you know, kind of close to that. And I don't even know how old you are.
I'm 19.
19. But for me, you know, I think I started riding.
You're 28?
I didn't realize that.
Okay, obviously it
You're
came
older
out.
than I thought you were younger. I turn 28 next week, but I always thought
next
you were
week,
young,
birthday
guys.
party, Scott Marceau, if you're in town.
Yeah, come here. I think it's on a Tuesday.
Hey.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. No, but so for me, you know, I started riding like 10 years ago or so, and it was still at that point. Obviously, the internet existed, but it wasn't anything like it was today or is today. It was magazines, and it was like RideBMX being just a big fat issue showing up at your door, and it was props like Jeremy was saying. It was everything. I mean, I can remember being, you know, 13-ish years old and, you know, Googling BMX, and there were a handful of things out there. Like, I think Ride always had a site, and then it was mostly forums, which...
Yeah, BMX board. Shouts to BMX board.
Yeah, forums in and of themselves merit maybe even a different discussion.
Were you guys on message board?
Yeah.
I wasn't on
On
BMX
BMX
board, but I was on this.
I couldn't get
I was on
accepted
this
to BMX
Canadian
board.
forum called Feeble BMX for a long time.
No
dude.
way.
It was tight, dude.
Whoa.
I think the biggest problem with online right now is that nobody knows what's good or bad. And that's a huge problem.
They
mean,
just know that
you know
it's
what I mean?
there.
The standard,
Can I just say,
standard
like,
isn't there.
That's a huge
Yeah.
problem.
All right, it
is the
seems like we've
standard.
struck a hot topic.
I
here.
really like what Dig's doing right now, to be honest. Like, I think that, like, I really like their articles. Like, I mean, I just read the Common Crew one today, and I watched the video. I like how you can, like, scroll through everything, and you see, like, amazing photos, and then at the end, there's, like, a video that goes along with it. Like, I really like the way they're putting it out, you know?
Focal Point's been doing that for years, though. Shouts to Cooper Brownlee. The scroll through, picture fills the frame, text block, picture fills the frame.
I've never even seen it. That's
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I never even.
I was about to. I
never
was
looked
about
at
to
Focal
take
Point.
that, jock that style, but
But regardless of that, and shout out to Dig anyways, I had my first feature published with Dig recently with Mike Saavedra interview.
Yeah, I
with
like
him.
that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really good.
But the whole point is that the scary thing for me is that I don't know if people see the difference between a quality feature online and just a regular shitty feature online. And that's what scares me the most, and that's what hurts me the most as a creative person that's putting everything I have into what I put out, is understanding the fact that, man, a lot of people might not even be getting this at all.
That's-
You know?
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that you just have to, like, you just really have to believe that people who care do. You know what I'm saying? People who really care about BMX and people who really care about the industry and they want to read shit like that are gonna, like, take the time to read it.
Yeah,
because, like,
definitely, I
I
agree.
take the time to read it, and
Yeah.
I don't have to. Like, I could literally just scroll through, look at the
of course.
photos, read it, but like I literally like read it all, you know. But this goes also like this expands into other aspects of like I look at like through Quentin when I first started working there. I had to look at a lot of like I was like on point. I was looking at like men's fashion blogs. I was looking at streetwear blogs. I was looking at art blogs. I'm looking at all these blogs that like I was never exposed to.
Yeah,
and it's like they're all web content. And they're all stuff that I'm interested in reading and caring about, you know? And it's like, I think that eventually people are just going to realize that, like, this is very important and this is very good quality work.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay attention.
I mean,
honestly, if the photos are good, people are going to, like, look, you know? It doesn't even, you know.
of course. But the problem with that is that there's so much content coming out on a regular basis. And the good stuff is there. You have to definitely look for it and find it and know the difference. And there's a lot of shit. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shit, especially within the BMX industry itself. And I will say that very, very loudly and proudly that, man, there's a lot of shitty content that comes out on a regular basis online, specifically within the BMX industry.
Amen.
But on the other hand, there's a lot of great content that comes out as well. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where we really need to somehow figure out a way for kids in the younger generation or anybody to understand the difference. You know what I mean? And to understand why, you know what I mean, an interview looks great online or why that photo looks great online as opposed to just reading something just to read it because it's that rider. You know what I mean? No matter who puts it out. For example, you know, a lot of sites, so, you know what I mean, a lot of the features I do for ESPN are bike checks, but a lot of companies are doing bike checks on their own now. People are doing bike checks on their own. You know what I mean? Team managers do bike checks.
I think Scott has to do a bike check in a minute, actually.
Actual riders do bike checks. You know what I mean? So it's different now where, say, you know what I mean, there's 5 new bike checks a day, but they're all different outlets, you know what I mean? So it depends on which one you're looking for and which, you know, who's putting in the most amount of work for each different outlet, you know? But it's different because it's not just like it was back in the day where there's the media, you know what I mean? There used to only be a handful of BMX heads, if you guys didn't realize that, with photography. There's just a handful of dudes doing all the content. Every single ad that you see was a BMX photographer that potentially was on staff for a magazine. You know what I mean? Every photo, every catalog, everything was all BMX photographers. Only a handful of them, they were doing all the content. And now everybody's a part of that, or everybody can be a part of that. So it changes it and it waters it down like crazy.
I feel like that just like also stems from the connectivity of like the internet and how people are just like, you know, it's like the homie Wes. He like gets so much work done and he's still in New Mexico chilling. Yeah. You know, he's still in Albuquerque, but like he shoots all over like with everybody, you know? And it's definitely. Like for somebody like that to not have to live where the industry happens, like that's amazing. And that just is like a show of the times that things are changing. Yeah. And it's like you don't necessarily have to live out in California. You don't have to live in New York City. You know, you could live wherever you want. Yeah, like and as long as like, you know, as long as you're talented and as long as you're like trying to like, you know, you make quality work with people, it's like and get your name out there, people want to fuck with you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, online content definitely makes that a little bit of a different story as far as accessibility and, you know what I mean, being able to work remotely and, you know, even just in general. And, you know what I mean, with the column, it happened anywhere. Mm-hmm. East Coast, West Coast, wherever. It didn't matter. And you wouldn't really necessarily know that, you know what I mean, without making it known or obviously if the content was from a different place, you know what I mean. But, yeah, so it definitely opens the doors for people to work remotely a lot easier. And, you know what I mean, just you could get a lot more creative. The one thing I love about online versus print is that there's no you don't have to cut words out. You know what I mean? I used to do interviews where I would literally cut question after question after question, maybe even a page of an interview that you put a lot of time into that there's just no space for it. Cut it out. You got to cut words. You got to cut words. You got to cut words. And it's just like, for me to have that outlet and to be able to write as much as I wanted and to have the person, you have free reign. You could tell me you know what I mean? Be as descriptive as you want to be. You know, there's no word count. People are going to read it. They're just going to keep scrolling. You know what I mean? And that information is huge. That difference is huge. You get to know people. You can write you know what I mean, a much more legit interview because there's no cutoff. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge difference.
Let's talk about actually going out and shooting the BMX bike riding.
Yeah. I feel like that's good too.
Painstaking process of loading up a 50-pound backpack full of batteries and lenses, strapping that shit to your shoulders and just pedaling for 20, 25 miles through any given city during the day.
It's rough.
Fuck that.
Dude, definitely. When
Fuck
you're like
that
whenever-
shit.
And then people asking you like, "Oh, are those lamps on your back?" Or like, it's like, no, they're not lamps.
All right.
Man, it's really bright out. You need all those lights right now?
Yeah, I
love
do
that
actually.
one.
Fuck
I
you.
love that one. That's
Fuck all of
that's
you.
the camera equivalent of why the sprocket's so small.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, why are
You
your
all
lamps,
these lights?
why are your lamps so loud?
I mean,
but-
the one thing about that though, with you know what I mean, deciding on what gear to bring. I mean, that starts at the process of, you know what I mean, even before you leave your pad, you have to kind of know what you're getting into for that day, and you know what I mean. Having the regret of not bringing the gear that you want when a photo's about to go down is the worst feeling in the world.
No, I mean
So,
honestly,
that's the one
It's
you have to
almost as
battle
bad
with
as
all
the
the
feeling
time.
as when you carried it all around and you didn't need it.
Yeah, you didn't shoot
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, it's the same
I.e.
thing.
yesterday.
that shit happens too.
Yeah, it's the same exact thing.
Honestly, though, I take everything out every single time almost because it's
That's a
like.
You
smart
do. I've
move.
seen you do
That's a
that.
smart
I mean, I just like
Yeah,
no matter
I
what,
respect
dude.
that.
Because like if it pays off, it pays off. It doesn't pay off, it doesn't pay off.
Part
And
of
I'm
the
just
game.
like, and I think about it as exercise.
Hit and miss. Yeah, no, it is good
There you go.
exercise.
It is
You
a
know?
great exercise.
Horrible.
I
for
mean,
your
I've
back.
learned over the years, even just working for print, working for everything, it's just one of those things where like missing the shot or you know what I mean, not having that certain lens that you want or not having the extra light that you needed, like it sucks
As
far
pissed
worse
off
than
as I
carrying
am,
around
yeah,
ever.
about carrying a camera bag around, I would be so much more pissed off
Yeah,
if I
exactly.
didn't bring everything and then something happened
yeah.
where I wanted to light it. Like,
Yeah,
And honestly,
Yeah.
all it takes
I've
is
been there a
that,
million times.
that one good shot you get, and it makes all the lugging around so worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't
definitely.
matter. You could
Yeah.
lug a fucking bag around 8 hours and then
Yeah.
get one photo that's amazing, and
Yeah.
you're just like sold. You know?
Yeah,
It's worth
it's
it.
worth
I
it.
think there's a weird kind of perception, definitely among maybe the younger crowd, that like, you know, you just have your camera on your back and you go like, photography's hard work, dude.
Yeah,
Like at
Yeah.
the end of the day, photography is hard, physically hard work,
Yeah.
mentally hard work. It's like you have to carry that stuff around. Like Chris was talking about, you know, you don't know what's gonna happen, and I mean, that is you have one job. You have one job, and it's to, you know, be there and get it when something happens.
Yeah.
No matter
well, I
what
mean
it
that
is.
brings up the
Yeah.
you know topic of, you know, getting the shot.
Yeah.
Also, the topic
Can
of
we already
like
talk about
lights,
that?
We didn't
like
talk about
lights
that at all.
versus natural light, like strobe
okay.
versus
Let's talk about
natural
getting
light.
the shot. I think that's gonna lead us to some interesting places.
I'm confused as to what that.
What
mean,
does getting
I mean,
the shot mean?
Right.
getting the shot means going to a spot, having somebody call out a trick, and you know what I mean. At that point, as the photographer, there's a relationship between rider and photographer, and your responsibility, your job is to pick out the angle, and
Yeah.
then pick out your lens. You know what I mean. Pick out how you're going to shoot it. Pick out your lighting setup. Set it up. Wait for the shot. You know what I mean. And then don't fucking miss the shot.
I like both aspects of it. Like I like working with people who are like, hey, we're going here, we're gonna shoot this. Like I have a plan. I love that. But at the same time, I love it when I'm hanging out with all the homies and we're just like riding, and you're just like, you see somebody do something, you know, and it's like really cool, and you're just like, hey man, you want to do that again? Because you know it's something that they could do again, and you know it's gonna make a great photo, you know.
Yeah, there's
And, like,
definitely a difference.
There's like
Two
these
different
different
scenarios, for
aspects of it
sure.
all, you know. It's like.
But I think we can all agree that the greatest safety net is that most riders these days only want to make sure the video is there. Like they
Yeah.
get the shot.
Yeah, you know, I
the
mean,
photo. It's secondary now, and it literally takes weight off my shoulders to know that a lot of riders, they just want the clip. You know,
Yep.
like one angle video, good. Two
I
angles,
shot-
great.
I have to argue with that for 1 second.
Okay.
Just because I shot with Sean Mercani the other day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where like the photo that we got, he was so psyched on that just in and of itself that it made me feel good about photography again. It made me feel like that. It felt like, you know what I mean? He understood how important that was to get that moment. You know what I mean?
did.
Regardless of if it's going to happen again or, you know what I mean, whatever situation it was, it felt good to see him have that reaction to a photo,
Yeah.
knowing that it was a photo, regardless of if the clip even if the clip worked out.
Right.
So I know what you're saying. Trust me, it's
Yeah.
happened to me on both ends, but just recently it happened the other way where the person was super psyched on the photo,
It's a great
you know what I
feeling.
mean? And it was just like, that felt great, you know?
But I mean, you know where I'm coming from, though.
I'm telling you, I've had it both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's happened to me a million times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the photographer, you know what I mean? You're kind of second. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like second priority.
It's like the
Yeah.
rider lands a trick, goes to the first camera, watches the footage, goes
Yeah.
to the
And
tripod
then asks
angle,
the
watches the
photographer.
footage,
That's the moment-
and then everyone turns to the photographer.
As soon
Did you get it?
as soon as they land
Oh,
soon as they land the photo, that's when you shoot the getting the clip photo, and you film and you take that picture of them watching the clip. It's like instant, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
That happens that happens on the daily.
Yeah,
But the worst feeling is in the world is when you know that the dude got the clip, but then the photo wasn't.
missed
right.
That happened to me. I've had
dude,
that
it
happen
happens to me
a couple
all
times.
too
That's the
often,
worst.
dude. And that's when you just sort of
That's
put
happened to
you put
anybody
the
that's
camera,
ever picked up a camera.
put the camera down and just like watch the footage with everyone like,
Yeah,
sick,
yeah.
and hope no one's
That
like,
was
so how's the
sick.
photo look? Like,
I just tell them, dude. I'm just like, yo, I missed it. Like,
Yeah, no,
That's
I mean
what
it
the
depends
hardest
on the
part
rider.
it's the
yeah.
worst though. Dude.
The hardest
Missing
part
a
is-
photo is the worst. Bar spins
Bar,
too.
fuck bar. I was just gonna say.
Thank
that.
you.
I was
Fuck
gonna say,
bar.
Yeah.
shooting bar spins are the worst thing, dude.
Dude.
Like,
And
I
then
could
you
agree
just
with
feel
that.
so bad. It's like,
you know,
I missed it, dude. I shot. Your bars are at 10 o'clock. It's not usable,
Yeah.
and you got to be like, I'm sorry. I'll shoot it again if you want to, but I understand if you don't want to.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
once,
It's one of those things.
I
That-
once,
that's something too. I think being able to ask someone to do something again in the right scenario,
Yeah.
obviously, is a big thing. Like,
Yeah, that's important.
Shout out to Jeff Brockmeyer actually on this one. Jeff, kind of taught me that. Like, I would for a long time that was a big like I would feel really guilty about that. I just would kind of refuse to do it, and he just told me, he's like, if it's someone who's at that level where they can do it again or maybe even again after that, you might as well.
Might as well
like,
ask.
You might as well,
Yeah,
might as
actually,
well
yeah.
lose. Might as well ask.
No hard
Don't
answer.
assume, but ask for sure.
Honestly, like,
that's good. Actually, that's like really good. Like, if the dude's at the level,
good
of
way.
being
Yeah,
able
if
to
he's
do
a
it.
paid pro athlete,
Yeah.
it's sort of his responsibility. I'm not going to say this takes any weight off of our shoulders, but it's his responsibility to make sure the photo is shot properly.
It's a collaboration. At the
It
end of
is.
the day, it's a
Yeah.
collaboration between
is.
you and your subject, who in this case is a BMX rider.
Yeah.
I
And-
mean, I can say personally that I've pushed a lot of pro riders over the years of shooting with people to their best. You know what I mean? I've pushed them to the point of their best. I've had them do things over and over until it was
Yeah.
what I know from knowing them well enough and from seeing their riding long enough that they can do this better. They can click a turn down a little bit further. You know what I mean? They can dip a toboggan a little bit, you know what I mean, a little bit steeper. They can do a hanger a little bit steeper. You know what I mean?
That just
I've
goes to
pushed people to that point, and at the end of the day, when the photo comes out, there's absolutely nothing but joy and happiness, and they're pumped to have been pushed to that point to get the photo to that point where
Yeah.
that's the photo, you know?
Let's hear it, Josh.
The first time that this whole scenario really played out in front of me, and I knew that asking someone multiple times is okay thing to do, was actually shooting with Bestwick. And
He's the man. He shoots too. Shouts to Bestwick.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
he knows,
Shout
he
out
knows
to
what's going
Bestwick.
on.
Bestwick
Photo.
knows exactly what goes into it, more than almost anyone actually. And we were doing it was actually like a bike check, and he was doing a non-vert trick. I think it was like a 3 invert or a 3 tuck, like over a box jump, and everything it was okay, but I had him do it like probably 10 times. Like he
I was
did-
about
he
to
did
say,
it-
like,
Wait
you
a
can
minute.
do
he
it
was
10 times.
real-
Wait a minute,
he
wait a
was-
minute.
Well, he was really comfortable because, and I wasn't asking. He was offering. He's like, "You want to do it again?" I'm like, "Yep, sure."
Well,
Or
here's
you
the
just
number.
kept-
Here's the number one thing about that situation is that if the rider offers, you never say no
Right.
ever.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can always
You know
get a
what I
better
mean?
shot.
You
Yeah.
always take
So
that
he
opportunity.
kept offering, and I kept taking it. I was like, "Yep," and I changed angles a little bit. I even
Yeah.
changed composition. I went from like horizontal to vertical. I did a bunch of things, and at the end of it, it was on my conscience. I kind of felt bad. I was like, "Oh," So I said something. I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. We had to do that so many times," and he just kind of looked at me like strangely and was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I asked you to do it a bunch of times," and he said, "I want to get that."
Yeah, he's
just
dialing
as
in the trick.
just as badly as you do. I want to make sure that's perfect." He's
Yeah.
like, "You don't need to feel guilty about anything. You don't
Yeah.
need to feel like it's just what it is. What it is."
Yeah, you understand.
Like you wouldn't, like as a photographer, you wouldn't expect him to just pull the first trick or pull the trick first try,
Right.
and then like if he didn't, you would get mad about it.
So photographers should be expected to get the shot first try, huh?
Right.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
this. I like this.
With certain exceptions, obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Fuck
I
bar
think-
spins.
No,
and tire grabs.
If we're going
Tiger
back,
grabs, yeah.
the one thing about a barspin, dude, I forgot who the photographer was. I think it might have been like Andrew White or somebody, but they were talking about the first time they shot with Corey Martinez, and they said like, hey, if Corey Martinez hates when you miss the bar spin the first try, and he judges you for if you miss the bar spin, and he's like high pressure. And ever since I read that, I was like, you know what, I'm that's the trick that I'm gonna dial in. Like if I can shoot a bar spin and get it midway. And honestly, like ever since I read that article or like the interview or whatever, I just was like, dude, I've like really focused. Tuck no handers,
No, but
not good at
barspins,
technical
everyone
negatives.
throws their barspins at different times,
That's the
at different
hardest part.
speeds.
Yeah.
Well, here's the number one tip for that. If you're ever shooting with anybody,
Have
with
them
shooting
throw
a
one on
barspin
flat
photo,
first.
You shoot
Yep.
1, 2, 3, maybe even 10 on flat.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you watch physically. You watch it with your eyes, and
Yeah.
you see it, and you watch, and you see how they do it on flat. You might even shoot it on flat just to feel them out. You know what I mean? Just to get an idea of how fast they're throwing, or if they bust or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
The problem with a bar spin specifically, more than any other trick, like Scott was saying, is that everyone does them differently, and I think maybe you guys feel differently, but like as a general rule of thumb, I kind of feel like most tricks or a lot of tricks, you have to shoot it a little bit early, like a little earlier than you would expect sometimes. Just that little delay between.
Oh, you want to press the button early?
Right. That's what
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
because
I
there's
should've-
there's
Well, I mean,
shutter
there's
lag.
been
definitely
certain
tricks like that,
times
like toboggans, I think being a big one. But with the bar spin, some dudes are gonna throw it real slow and bust it, and then other ones it's like,
Real quick.
just throwing it. And
Way
it's
too
super
quick.
fast. So
I hate it.
it's way harder to determine when you need to shoot it
Yeah. Okay.
at that point.
Oh, I got a
Go,
topic.
Chris.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Not a new topic.
Okay.
Something to expand on this one. You got anything
About bar spins?
about
hardest
making the
time,
rider do
about-
things
about
multiple
timing
times?
or
No,
these
I
mul-
mean-
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I try not to make people do it twice because I do feel bad.
No one
but, I
wants
mean,
to.
if we
Right.
do
Depending
make
on the
mistakes-
trick.
I mean,
But-
depending on the trick, yeah.
How do we feel when the rider gets hurt when we ask them
I
to
hate
do
that.
it another
Yeah, I
time?
mean,
I've
I've
been
never-
there. I've been there with a couple of people going to the hospital.
That
Scott,
is the
Scott was
worst.
with me in Austin.
Yeah.
Oh, James.
James Harvey was just.
He was a trooper,
He
though.
was getting killed. Yeah,
He was.
I mean,
no, he almost had a first try, though.
What was
That's
he
the
trying,
thing.
though? What was he trying?
He was trying
This
have
weird
you been
90-degree to hanger.
Have you been to 5 Hip in Austin?
Yeah.
So it's like the bank hip.
It's
sort
like a
of thing
bank with a rail going down at 90 degrees, and he was doing
with a rail. So he was basically doing like a
crazy
90
hanger.
gap
To
to
hanger.
tooth hanger down like a decent size, rail.
It would have been like an 8 or 9 stair rail, maybe.
Yeah, and he almost had it first try, just looped out a little bit, and then ate shit pretty badly like 3 times following that.
Well,
Like,
the thing
really,
is, he knew what we were getting into. We were shooting
Yeah.
a push-to-stop tutorial, and so he knew that eventually he had to get the shot. Like it wasn't something he was like, "Oh, let's not do this anymore."
no,
Like
he knew going into it.
Yeah. So, and I love him for that because he just he kept a good attitude through the whole thing, but he
Yeah.
was all bruised up. He crashed
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 times hard.
He's one of those like the very few people I've been with who can do that, can crash that hard, and then continue just get up and over. Where even I'm like, "Are you okay, dude?"
Yeah.
And
Actually, one person that stands out in my head about being able to fall super hard and get back up and just go for it again and again and again is Corrali. I mean, that dude when he's riding the way he wants to ride and at the level when he was at, the peak of his level, I mean, it's insane watching him actually. His dedication to getting up after he falls, no matter how hard he slams, is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude will get up
Good people.
out again and again and again and
Shit,
again.
that's actually his HMC. Adam bought that camera from him.
Oh,
nice.
shout out
Right.
to Curly's HMC over there.
What up?
Shout out to Corrali, one of the best to ever do it.
All right, so fuck bar spins. We feel bad when riders get hurt when it's on our dime.
Yep.
And 1/500.
But I mean, that's more the whole thing with the riders getting hurt. I mean, that's just a thing that's going to happen.
Yeah.
If the rider's going to get hurt, you know what I mean. But in the sense of if you're asking them to do it over and over and over, and then that last, you know what I
gotta
mean,
draw
that
the
one
line.
time, then they get hurt because you asked them 4 or 5 times beyond what they wanted to do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a different story.
I haven't been.
But that happens
been
to the
quite
best of
there yet,
everybody,
But
you know?
yeah.
If you're working to get that shot with somebody, I mean, that's a risk that you both know you're willing to take. And if the rider's going to take it, you're taking it too. And
It should be
know?
mutual understanding.
however-
I mean, it
however
is a
pans out,
collaboration.
you know?
Nonetheless,
it
it's a
is
collaboration.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, no matter what it is, it's like if they want to do it
You-
again, do it. If they don't want to do it again, fuck it.
And if you weren't there for them, they wouldn't have a photo. If they weren't there for you, you would be shooting an empty handrail. You'd be shooting a fucking set of stairs with no one riding.
There's 100% of mutual understanding
Yeah.
in play there.
Like, hey, I don't get the perfect shot every time, and B, you don't land the trick healthy every time.
Yeah.
Shit might go wrong. Like this isn't gonna be perfect. Nothing usually is.
Yeah, but it's the back and forth with the rider trying the trick
Yeah.
and the photographer. Maybe you miss it. Maybe they don't do it as good. Maybe
Yeah.
you miss. You
And
know what I
what
mean?
sucks-
You go back and forth until you figure it out together, and then when you hit it, then you both know. And it's
Dude,
sick.
one of the most stressful times was like a couple weeks ago for the ride article for the 1 p.m. shit.
Oh god.
Dude. So we drive out, me, Tony, and Aaron. We drive out to Compton to go to this fat ledge, dude. That Tony was like, "Yeah, I think it would feeble it."
Huge
like,
ledge.
a huge ledge. Yeah, and dude, And you know, we're like literally like, hey, yeah, we're gonna shoot this at 1 p.m. You know, and he's like warming up on all these small ledges, you know, and it's like the pressure. Like I've never felt more pressure to shoot a photo in my entire life.
Yeah,
it was like I was not gonna like. I don't know what you guys shot because I'm pretty sure everybody here got asked to shoot the same article. You know,
I didn't shoot
and it's
that.
like.
Poor Jeremy, the only one left out.
Thank you.
Like, you
Thank
know
you.
what I'm saying though, but like having the
But I
tension,
understand that pressure fully. Yeah,
having the tension of being like this has to be shot at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
and
It
is
was
like
crazy.
and what seeing like what was popping off right at that moment. It was like, yeah, I've never felt more pressure to get
Wait,
something right. the
were you
first
getting
time.
kicked out too?
No, we were there for 30 minutes while Tony was warming up and I was setting up. And as soon as Tony pulled it, the cops came and kicked us out.
Perfect.
Damn.
Literally
1:01 p.m.
No, literally, we watched the clip. We fucking watched the clip. We saw the photo. Cops were like, "Get out of the school!" Like this crazy, and we were just like, "Dude, I can't believe it just worked out." Like we were worried about traffic, all this shit, but
Yeah,
like,
mine almost didn't happen. Mine
Josh had a
was
crazy story.
on the absolute verge of, like, yeah.
who'd you
it
shoot?
was-
What'd you shoot?
I shot. Well, I was in New York City at the time, staying with Mark Maywison, and we were.
Shouts to Stretch.
Shouts to Team Staff and
Team
Stretch.
Staff.
Yeah,
I love that team.
Rosie, Nick, everyone over there.
all of them. Carter.
Carter.
But no, we were in New York. We pedaled over the GW Bridge and, you know, rode down from like 180th or something. And you know,
you were telling me this. Oh man, you were telling me this.
yeah,
It's
we
crazy.
talked about that outside.
Yeah.
And we all kind of got separated around like 96th Street, and I ended up just jumping on the train downtown, and then eventually everyone like that we were with had kind of split up at that point. So I met up with Mark and a couple other dudes in Union Square. And at this point, I mean, so 1 p.m. here, 4 p.m. East Coast time was go time.
Yeah.
And it was like 3:40 at this point when I got to Union Square, and Mark and I are just sitting there, and we were actually arguing. We got like a real deal heated argument in the middle of Union Square about what we were gonna do. Like, Mark from the get-go was like, I'm gonna sketch a cab. He was like, I'm gonna sketch a cab and all this. And I mean, I can't even lie. Like, my first thought was like, that's fucking stupid. Like, that's not gonna, that's not gonna make it in Ride. And we went back and forth, and I was like desperately trying to think of anywhere like downtown-ish that we could go to get a photo. And I mean, I was even. It was so bad that I was about to resort to like shooting something on the stairs at Union Square. At that point,
That's
like
real, man.
like 15 minutes to go, I'm like, we might have to make it happen on the 4th stair.
Dude.
It's gonna be one
I
of
was in the
those
same
things.
fucking boat.
Right. So, and we go back and forth for a while, and finally I'm like, you know, fuck it. I'm gonna shoot and light a cab. And we rode over a few blocks to like 6th Avenue. I didn't even have light stands with me. So I hand 2 Einsteins, Vagabonds, the whole deal to 2 dudes that we're with.
Yeah.
And kind of roughly positioned them at this little spot on 6th Ave. And had Mark start up like a block beforehand. And he tried a few different times, and somehow, I mean, I guess we could edit this out.
What? Yeah. Why?
I'm pretty sure it was at like 401.
Oh my God, 401. We can edit
heard
this
that,
out.
Z?
I'm pretty
Z, dude, shout out to Z. 401. Don't run this
sure.
photo.
Well, if we're gonna, you know,
I was gonna say, wait, did you guys have to at least show your raw file?
Yeah, no, they read
No, we
that.
did,
That-
yeah.
You want to know what? I now have a confession to make publicly.
You edited the raw file.
No, I didn't. Well, that, you know, I thought about it, but the time on my camera was wrong, and it was an hour forward too.
Yeah.
Well, mine showed up at 4 o'clock because I never changed it from East Coast.
Mine showed up as like 5:01.
That's fine. Just tell them that on your camera.
Yeah, tell me
So,
where-
wait,
you
you
tell
said
me-
We'll see.
you said the same thing because I sent you my thumbnail like as soon as I shot it, and you sent mine. You're like it's kind of weird though because my camera time's off, so it looks like it's 1:05.
Right,
You know,
right,
you
right.
change the
I don't
camera
care,
time.
man.
I'm on
Mine
New
was-
Mexico time over here on my
Mine
camera,
was at
dude.
5:01, and it wasn't even like East Coast West Coast thing. It was because I was.
You were an hour and a minute off.
Well, I was, and the reason the reason I was an hour off was because of
You bought your camera in another time zone or something?
I just
like-
bought it in the
like
middle
they,
of
like,
Atlantic.
save it, whatever happens. on the
okay, it
phone.
happens, it
I
happens.
just didn't switch, you know.
No,
I
it's
was
fine.
stupid.
The
So I was
spirit
shooting
was
for, like-
there. The spirit was there.
I think
The hustle was.
Oh my God, that was
there.
one of the most stressful photos I
It
ever
was,
shot.
but then we got it, and he only, sketching a cab in New York City, he only got on about 3 times.
Yeah.
And the third one was like
make.
he was coming at me, and I leaned in and just
Fisheye?
and just pan with him. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
And,
nice. Yeah, I was hoping you
and,
shot
and,
with a
and
fish.
they both popped, and I looked at the screen, and was like, you know, and
the one.
and ended up making it.
That's the
for
one.
that also.
Let's talk about gear. Okay, well, I'll start by saying that I just picked up a Fuji X100T to replace my Yashica T4 as the point-and-shoot camera. And I've shot over 3,000 images in January. I've already... There's gigs upon gigs of just point-and-shoot photos on my hard drive right now that I have to go through and delete probably 85% of them just because...
Yeah.
They're just taking up space. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm just snapping around anything I see.
Yeah.
And day to day, that's what I carry. That's what I sling around my shoulder. But I also have a lot of filming responsibilities now. So I have a video backpack on, but thank God there's no fucking batteries or light stands that those need. So
Yeah.
I'm at minimum right now, and I feel all right about it. But if that one spot comes up and it's perfect time and it's fucking golden hour and this dude's gonna hop the shit and like I don't have my lights, man. I'm just gonna have to shoot a natural light. I'm sorry. Or you know what I do is just like make sure the clip looks really good. You know, like I take my photographic love into different mediums. You know, like just because it's not one still frame and it's 60 frames per second doesn't mean you can't add your add your vision to it.
Oh, yeah.
The same amount of care that you would.
Yeah, I mean, I love filming is just shooting a really fast sequence. No.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there is one thing to say about filming and shooting photos. You know, I used to do both too. When I first moved out here, I was like all about and honestly, I still do. I love making edits. I love filming. I love the idea of just like getting in tight with the fish and you see how the clip is working out and you're skating or you're in motion, you know. But like, you know, they're at the end of the day too. It's like there's just that one awesome moment of just like capturing the still image. You know, it's like.
As far as the gear selection goes, though, I want to definitely convey the message that you don't have to have, you know what I mean, $5,000 worth of gear to shoot a good photo.
Right.
No.
It helps for sure, but it's not. A
Yeah, it
necessity
helps,
at
and
all.
if you end up becoming obsessed with it, you know what I mean, like most professionals are. If you end up becoming obsessed with it, like most professionals are, you are going to want to dive off the deep end and get as much gear as possible. But in order to start, I feel like it's intimidating to where, you know what I mean, the level that pros are at when somebody might see somebody shooting, a pro photographer shooting a pro rider. I think it's hard to understand why they have so much gear or why you're shooting with so much expensive gear. But you don't have to always shoot with the expensive gear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could get an amazing photograph with, you know what I mean, a point and shoot camera or with, you know what I mean, a used digital camera from eBay or something like that, you know? So it all depends, and you know what I mean? It just depends on where you want to be at with your photography, but you know, as far as just getting started, the best thing you could do is just get a camera and just shoot with it.
Yeah.
No,
Spend
sure.
a lot of time with it. Just learn it.
Get
inside
to know
and
that
out.
thing.
Figure it out, you know. Every camera too has like just like a new like learning curve to it, no matter what, you know. It's like shoot 4x5, you shoot these like, you know, these Fuji cameras. It's like all those, everything just has like
The learning curve. Were we talking? I was talking about with someone just the other day. It's the fucking mirrorless cameras are so fast.
Well, yeah, we were talking
I
about the
have
bar
to wait.
spins.
Yeah, with the bar
Yeah.
spins, dude. I've been like
bar spins.
I have to wait until like the bars are like quarter way around. I'm used to shooting it like I've been shooting mostly with Stevie doing bar spins.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
He has such a distinct way he throws them. He hops, he tucks, he levels out, and then he like bunches his shoulders up, and boom, he throws them. And as soon as I see him bunch his shoulders up, I shoot. And on the 1DS3, it's the perfect amount of lag to get him at 6 o'clock.
Right.
With the fucking X100T, I swear it goes back in time, and I'll get shots where he's not even let go of
Yeah,
the
you know what I
bars
mean,
yet.
yeah.
So that's one thing that
incredible.
sucks. And the other day at Home Ditch, I had him, or Home Av Ditch, I had him do this 180 bars. It wasn't huge by any means, especially for Stevie, but it was dangerous.
I saw that clip when he did it with
over a shopping cart.
Yeah.
I had to make him do it 3 or 4 times, and although again it's Stevie and that's nothing for him, there's still that danger that like a 180 bar spin, like there's a lot of risk involved
Going
in that.
over something. Yeah,
definitely.
You're coming down hard, going backwards, you know. And I was on every time I shot it. I was like, in my head, I knew damn, I didn't wait long enough. Like this fucking camera is just seriously
But it's
messing
really
with
hard
me.
to retrain your brain to do
Yeah,
something
because
like that
it's
that
so
quickly.
counterintuitive to wait.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to the DSLR with that 0.04 milliseconds of shutter lag or whatever, and it was just working out perfectly. But now, I don't know. It's fun though because I'm relearning it, and it's just something new.
Equipment wise, it's like a lot of people nowadays are shooting with a lot of the same stuff. Like everybody, like a lot, like Einstein's, that whole power of like bringing out like high quality studio lighting into the field is getting crazy, and it's changing the way people are shooting BMX. Like, you know, you're able to shoot with like a full frame censored camera at 500th of a second digitally, and it's like, and that's like changing the way like we shoot photos, you know, and everybody else shoots photos as well, you know.
Yo, when I discovered hypersync in that and like high speed sync in that. That's crazy. That's such a leap
It's magic.
and bound. Yeah, it really is magic because you can shoot wide open apertures, like super dialed down flashes, super high shutter speeds. It's like a whole different world of off camera lighting.
Yeah, for sure.
And I still haven't honed it in. I still haven't really even like tried it, but I know that it's there. And if I get the right equipment, like it could be crazy. But
no, there's a lot of possibilities there. I always just think about like what you could do with it with like something like, you know, with like a Hasselblad or like even with one of these. Like you shoot like an Einstein full power with one of these cameras, like what the possibilities are endless. You could probably shoot like 8,000th of a second, like really do some crazy shit, you know? Like that's real though. Like mirrorless, dude. Like honestly, we're on the verge of like the mirror and the camera being non-existent. Like you know, and that's gonna change everything. You know, we're gonna be. Well, I imagine within like the next couple years, we're gonna be shooting like full frame sensor cameras that aren't even they're mirrorless. You know?
I 100% believe that sync speeds are going to be an issue of the past
because they're a necessity
no
to change for sure. Like
that
they
is
need
a good
to change.
point.
As the technology evolves,
Yes.
that's going to be just such an archaic
sync
concept
speed
to
is
us.
sync speed. What
Sync
the
And I hope
speed,
so, dude. I want it to be gone, dude. I don't care about that.
Yeah,
It is,
fuck
because-
sync
because-
speed.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, it's really one of the most ridiculous things.
It's holding
you'll
us
ever
back.
hear.
It's holding, dude.
And we've come so far forward in every other regard, and the stupid camera manufacturers are still like
1/250th.
200th.
We can't do any better than that.
Why do you make a camera that syncs it like a digital camera sync it 200th of a second? Doesn't make any sense.
Even
Dude,
like
it doesn't
the
make any
flagship,
sense.
like Pro, Nikon, Canon, DSLR bodies are still at a
Even the
250th.
1DX.
Yeah, like how does that happen?
Is that right?
Yeah,
I'm almost positive.
$7,000 for 2/50th of a second.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd rather just like wipe my ass with that money, dude.
How does this happen? How have we come this
I'm gonna
far
double
in
check
the
so we
digital
don't sound
landscape
crazy.
with all this?
That's like
I just can't get over it.
A bike, the bane of a bike's existence is the tube that keeps popping.
Yeah.
Like, why
Right.
can't a fucking camera get over 1/250th at sync speed?
Right.
What the fuck? Well, those Hasselblads with
The leaf shutter.
Yeah, with the leaf shutter, they go up to like 1/2000, but that's Hasselblad. That's a whole different fucking beast right there.
So that's like medium format. Like,
yeah,
you
that's.
know.
I mean,
but Chris is right. The mirror/mirrorless thing is gonna.
and
it's
then
just
along
changing-
with
that's
that,
what
the
it
shutter
is.
speed's gonna go away too. Or the sync speed. Sorry.
Right,
yeah.
right. Shutter
It's-
speed. I was like, ooh.
Shutter
that
speed
means
is
that.
That means some shit.
non-existent 2030.
How does that work?
We just
Like,
look
all
and
right,
blink,
all right.
man.
Yo, no, oh, you want to talk about future photography?
I mean, we could, yeah, like, what is the future? Like,
Oh,
what is
man.
the future of, like, BMX photography and, like, in general?
What's the future of anything, though?
I don't know.
Man.
It's the
We
future.
should do something about how to get your photos noticed.
How do you
I
get
mean-
your photos noticed?
Yeah. Marketing websites, Instagram.
I'm gonna say, I think I don't want to throw Z under the bus, but just send your shit to Z at Rise. Send your shit.
They're not, honestly, though,
Sorry,
Z's
Z,
the
you're gonna
best.
give me a
I'm
lot of
pretty
emails.
sure. I'm
Kids are
pretty sure
afraid of-
all of us have sent stuff to
I was
Z.
terrified.
Yeah, kids are afraid of getting
yeah,
denied, and
yeah.
it happens every fucking day. You just got to realize that it's
He's
gonna
gonna get
happen.
like 100
Well, I
interviews.
mean-
Well, I'm not going to
100
say his
emails
email
after
address.
this.
I'm just saying, like, if you want your shit in RideBMX, you got to send it to Jeff Zielinski, and he's going to tell you if it's good or not.
And he's gonna tell you exactly why it's not good.
Yeah.
enough.
The main thing is if your photos are looking, if you're sitting there shooting and you think you have good stuff and you're just wondering, how to get published or how to get your photos out there, if you can honestly say that your photos are looking like the photos you see in the magazines or looking like the photos you see in the good features online, I mean, then that's all. The next step is all you need is the contacts. I mean, if your work is on that level, then you're already, you're already there. You just need to figure out a way in. And if you're not there, you just need to work hard and, keep shooting until your stuff does look like the photos in the magazines or until it does look like the good feature content online,
This is true.
No, exactly. And like, I mean, and I think too is like, as you grow as like a photographer, like one thing I could say is like, look outside of BMX.
Yep.
Like for me personally, like, and I have to just like think like one of my professors, like I went into college thinking like, oh yeah, BMX photography, I'm going to shoot this. Got into college, like study photography, learned that like, oh shit, people don't want to look at BMX photos all the time. Like this is not what they care about. And it's like what I cared about, but you know, it's like it forced me to like think outside the box. And now I have like this whole just like of art history. We were talking about Crewdson earlier. Like some of my favorite photographers are like fucking, you know, I like Bresson. I like Henry Cartier-Bresson, you know. I like the dude who did the Americans. What's it? Robert Frank. You know, it's like all these people I would never have learned about if like I didn't like know, you know,
exactly.
like Larry Sultan, one of the best, dude. Like, you know, you look at stuff like the Valley, like things like that. Is like I'm constantly looking outside of what BMX does because like I care about it as an art form. And honestly, I feel like in the future, if we're going to be talking about the future Ride Fast, I feel like other photographers need to like think about it as like being like an art. It's not just like this is like this. It is artistic and it is important and it does convey like we're going to look back like 15, 20, like 30, 40 years. And this generation right here is going to be important. You know, it's like people don't care right now. People don't give a fuck. But like
because it's happening right now.
because it's happening right now. But like, you know, we're in a very like special place right now to like document what is going on. And it's an important movement.
BMX
you know?
aside, I think we're living
Just in general,
by
you know.
far in one of the most exciting times in human history.
Yeah.
Like,
And like we
I would say
experience
for
it by riding out, like riding every day. Like every time that I'm out riding, like shooting a photo, I want to get a good BMX photo. But at the end of the day, to me, it's not even about that. It's about like documenting like just this time of hanging out with like really good people who care about what they're doing, you know? And also the shenanigans that happen in between, you know?
The way I look at it is that I just want to go out and have an adventure, see things, have a good time, and really my camera is just my boarding pass for that.
it's a catalyst to other things. Yeah.
It takes as much as a bike takes you places how everyone talks about, oh, my BMX bike is taking me here and there. My camera has taken me so many fucking places like that. And really like it's just the camera's just like something that maybe people think of me just as the camera. Maybe I'm having some sort of existential crisis right now. But like, do people want to bring me on the trip, or do they bring the camera on the trip? I don't know.
No, it goes hand in hand.
It becomes part of your identity. It does become your identity. Actually,
I've gone on trips because people are like, dude, we like you. Like we want to be around you. Like it's not like you're like the homie. It's not like you're, you know what I'm saying? You're not awkward. You like can kick it with everybody. And it's like, you know, and like, I shoot like, you know, I shoot pictures. I make people look good, you know, obviously I want to do that. But at the same end of the day too, it's like, if you're a really cool person and you're open to experiences, people are going to bring you and they're going to like what you do, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Josh, wrap it up. I don't know. I feel like we're on our
wrap it up with what?
Our last
comments. Just do a wrap.
Give me something to go
off
of.
Anything. I don't know, like tips to the kids.
To shooting and
anyone listening, just talk to the listeners.
Just with anything?
Both listeners.
I mean, Scott said it earlier, but I think it's important to reiterate, just sticking with it. Like, you have to shoot a lot of really, really, really bad photos, I think, before you get anything even slightly usable, anything that you're even remotely psyched on. You have to shoot a lot of really, really bad photos, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't think you can do it any other way. It's you know, because you learn through mistakes, and you learn through putting yourself in all these different scenarios where things are going horribly wrong, and you learn how to correct those. You know, a lot of being a good photographer is being a good problem solver, being able to solve problems on the fly very quickly. And I think that the more you hone that in, and the more time you spend with your camera and spend interacting with people and just putting yourself in every sort of photographic scenario ever, like that's what's going to benefit you the most at the end of the day. It's not going to be a new lens or a new camera or some software. It's going to be the time you put in with those people, and that's what you're going to learn from.
Well said.
Done.
I feel like as far as you know, photography goes, anybody that's looking to get into it or looking to explore it as you know, whatever it be, maybe a creative medium or an outlet financially, whatever, is get the finances out of your head. You know what I mean? Don't think about it on a financial level. You know, don't start off thinking that you're going to get published. Don't start off thinking that you're going to sell photos and make $1 million. You know what I mean? You just really have to start and actually understand the camera. I think that's the biggest problem that the future of photographers have right now, is that people aren't actually going into it, taking the time to understand their camera, because you can get a usable shot without knowing much. You know, from, you know what I mean, digital being the way that it is, you know, so instant and so, you know what I mean, almost automated in a certain sense. You couldn't accidentally get a great photo with a film camera. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different time frame. It's a different time. So the best advice I could have, if you're just even getting into it or trying to push yourself and push your limits, is just to really like truly break down the camera and understand what it's doing and how a lens hooks on, you know, even just how a lens communicates with the body and what the body actually does. And, you know what I mean? Just all your different settings and, you know, just watching light as you're outside, just in general without a camera, just always paying attention to light and always paying attention to how people look in certain scenarios, and just really breaking it down to the very basics and just starting from there and then building, you know what I mean, building up from there. And then by the time you do get to the level where you really understand it, you're going to be ahead of the curve because you're going to actually know the fundamentals compared to somebody else that's just shooting to shoot.
And directly, you know, correlating with everything that Jeremy just said, I think that, you know, you need those basics. You need those fundamentals, those technical skills. You know, it's super important. But I think one of the hardest things personally for me was kind of making the connection between all the technical stuff that I had memorized and worked hard to perfect, and then taking all that and turning it into something that told a story, and that's, you know, that makes you feel a certain way, and that's aesthetically something that you want to look at and that other people want to look at. And, you know, I'm not saying to sacrifice the, you know, anything technical at all, because those are just, you know, tools. Every skill that you learn is a tool in your bag, and they're all good. But sometimes, you know, you should reiterate that in your head. What's the story? What's the story? What am I trying to say with this photo? And I think the more that you do that, the more the technical stuff just kind of comes along. Like, you will get to a point for sure where you're not having to obsess over like f-stops and shutter speeds. You're going to think about it, but you're going to be thinking about it to a much lesser extent than you probably would be initially.
I think that just goes into like how you do things, like your aesthetic and your style. You know, it's like eventually you develop like a style. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. I feel like the younger kids or beginner shooters want to start with a style. They have a style that they want to just start pursuing and go towards. But the thing is, I feel like as you get older and keep shooting, you develop a style organically, and that's the best way to do it, is to come into the style, not to chase it, to let it come to you.
You have to go through a lot of different phases.
That becomes your signature, and then people hire you based on that style because they want their photos to look a certain way, and they say, oh, well, this is a Josh McElwee because the lighting's on point and he balances the flashes for the ambient sunlight, you know, like that's, you gotta stick to what you're doing. Figure out, that's the best thing I learned in photo school was figure out your niche, figure out what you're best at, and just dive into that.
Yeah.
Dive into it.
Yeah. That's the best, like that is like some of the best advice like out there for sure.
And don't be afraid to screw something up or to make a bad photo, you know, because obviously there are, you know, plenty of scenarios where you most emphatically don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to get it. But if it's something where you have a little more leeway, it's not something do or die. And like, you want to take some risks and you want to see what works. You want to experiment, you know, like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. You know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, you got something awesome out of it and you learn something new.
That's the beauty of digital, is that you don't have to pay for film processing and wait for the slides to get back and all that. You know if you got the shot or not right on the spot. And I think that's the best part about digital, is the learning curve is so sharp.
Also, sorry.
Go on.
I mean, I'm just saying, also just like going kind of back to like what Josh was saying, is like take it like when you're starting out. Because, like, it's all about the action when you're starting out shooting BMX. You want to shoot the trick. You want to get, like... But honestly, if I could give advice to anybody shooting right now, take the step back and realize what's happening with, like, your homies. And, like, just, like, what is going on beyond the trick and, like, past it. Like, it's not all about just, like, the trick. Like, carry your camera around. Shoot the fucking picture of the dudes riding down the street. Take a picture of the hands. Like, notice details of, like, what's going on. Yeah, and the sooner you realize what's popping off with that, like, the sooner you'll get, like, a better grasp of, like, how to create, like, stories and it'll help build to just like these tricks, you know, because like at the end of the day, it isn't just about tricks, you know, it's like about being able to convey just like a feeling with like what's going on, you know.
And as a BMX rider, I think it's way too easy to just get caught up in the tricks and, you know, the level of what someone's doing, and it's so much deeper than that though. There's just the entire culture. There's so much to be explored and shown to people. So sometimes, you know, maybe even approaching it from like a non-BMX perspective, like I think can really yield some interesting results and maybe something even fresh that people haven't seen before.
Thanks everyone for coming out. Josh, Chris, Jeremy. Hope you had a good time in California.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Josh is leaving in the morning, back to the East Coast.
I gotta break my bike down the back, dude.
Oh man,
You got it. Just relax. So I hope everyone learned something, was entertained, was turned on to photography, was taught a lesson or two. Anything that I hope it sparks an interest in someone. If you have any questions, comments, advice, tips, tricks, leave them in the comments section of this video, and we'll get back to you. And hopefully we can help you out and keep BMX and print and digital and shutter speeds and f-stops alive in the hearts of all of us.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I agree. And if anything comes up as far as the, you know, even in the comments, I say everybody should just feel free to, you know what I mean, put future topic ideas or, you know what I mean?
That's good
future
too, yes.
input.
If you want to hear
any feedback, anything that you guys might want to dive into a little bit more
Ideas.
or hear.
And honestly,
any ideas?
if anyone wants to be on a fucking podcast with us, feel free to just say, hey, I'd like to be on. So you got to come out to LA.
Yeah,
We're
just
not
buy a
paying
ticket,
for
dude.
shit.
Just get out here, bro. Like, I don't care, you know, like,
right
come
to
out
Cali.
here.
You don't need any credentials. Just come hang out. Cool.
Yeah, but feel free to leave comments and just ask us. I mean, not necessarily. Oh shit, I should just do that. So feel free to just leave comments and, you know, pitch future ideas, future podcast ideas for the photography side of things. If you want to dive into a topic, you know, deeper or, you know, a technical aspect. I mean, we could sit here and talk all day, but anything specifically, I think you guys should feel free to share it, and then, you know, we could take it from there.
What Jeremy said.
Boom.
Solid.
Signing off.
Later.
Should stop.